Right, a very good afternoon or good day to all of you viewers. Thank you for tuning in at Sahwira Financial Business Tips, which is our channel where we bring you a wide range of business tips that are targeted towards empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises. And specifically, this is our Sahwira SME Hub business unit, and you go by empowering SMEs, which is our hashtag there. And my name, by way of introducing myself, is Dr. Charlie Dawam. I hold a PhD in management from Manchester Metropolitan University, which is MMU. I'm an associate fellow for the Decent Work and Productivity Center here at MMU, specifically in the Work in SMEs Knowledge Platform. I'm also an associate fellow for the UK Higher Education Academy, and I bring on board 30 years of professional work experience spanning banking, management consultancy, and university education. And in this presentation, I will be just diving briefly into everything about innovation, but by way of introduction, hence I'm calling it the Innovation I series. This icon there is standing for the human eye, so read it as the Innovation I series. The encouragement, of course, being that all micro, small, and medium enterprises should prioritize developing a knack for innovation, or should have a high propensity for innovation. And it is very important, as I shall explain later earlier on. Let us go to the next slide. So there we are. Frequently asked questions, which is what I'm going to look into. Number one, you might be saying, what is this introductory about innovation all about? I'm going to look at two key questions. That is, what is innovation and how do I innovate, or how can we innovate? Okay, these are some of the frequently asked questions. And the next slide would then lead us to the objectives, which is to briefly gather from yourselves as viewers or SME owner managers, what comes to your mind when you think about innovation. And secondly, to demonstrate only two major forms of innovation. And thirdly, to then get into some brainstorming groups whereby we then benchmark from other industries different ways of innovation and how we can tap into these modes of innovation into our very own businesses. In other words, learning from what others are doing so that we can also innovate. So that's what we'll be doing. Of course, viewers, you won't be able to join me in these brainstorming sessions, but you will benefit from this 15 minutes introduction. Okay, the next slide there. Here is just an example. Before I give you a small exercise, here is an example of innovation. There is no sound on this video, but just watch what is going to happen there. There you can see the gentleman is showing that paperback. Oops. And there it is. The gentleman has now transformed that into a face mask, as you can see. Let's see the next. Here is another free video there. Let's click and find out what this gentleman and lady are doing. Of course, they are wearing face masks. They're enjoying their ice creams. You can see, the line there. They are looking at each other, communicating there. Look by the eyes. You can see they are talking through their eyes. What a way of innovating, since people can't get close to each other because of COVID-19. So you can see how they've come up with an innovation. Here's another more sophisticated way of innovation. Let's click and see. There is a lovely car there. You can see what is happening. The roof, and then the bolt closes, and there the roof again, giving a complete closure. So again, these are different ways of coming up with innovative ideas. Okay, here's another one which is quite more familiar with many people. Let's see what's happening there. That's a VW there, Volkswagen, turned into a fast food street shop. You can see, oh, apologies for the internet connectivity there. There you are. You see what is happening there? Okay. So the whole idea is turning this VW vehicle into a street shop there. So another way to innovate. Now, having given you this, let me give you a quick exercise before I reveal what I was about to reveal. I'm just going to give you about 10 to 15 seconds. Take a piece of paper and a pen or notebook. Just list what comes to your mind when you think about innovation. Don't think too hard. Just list keywords that comes to your mind when you think about innovation. Let's start. Right, 10 seconds is up there. So let's continue. Right. I'm pleased to share with you some of the keywords that were suggested by other SME owner managers when I was with them through a similar exercise. So these are not written in any particular ranking order. So at the top there is creativity, then new ideas, and at the bottom you have open-mindedness, then learning from successes of self and others, learning from mistakes of self and others. Then you also have in the middle here, thinking outside the box and seeing light in darkness, as well as change and upgrading. Now, if we look carefully or closely to these keywords, no doubt that a common thread for and about innovation runs through all these keywords. For example, how can we possibly innovate if we are not open-minded? In other words, narrow-mindedness tends to inhibit creativity and innovation. Further, how could we possibly innovate if we are not prepared to learn from our own mistakes and successes, as well as benchmarking from the mistakes or weaknesses, as well as successes for other entrepreneurs? This may be those who are doing exact businesses like ourselves, or different businesses and from different industries or business sectors, but we can learn one or two things from their successes or failures. Similarly, how can an entrepreneur or a micro, small, and medium enterprise owner manager possibly innovate if they do not want to think outside the box? Actually, somebody said, not only do we have to think outside the box, but we should strive to think without the box to start with. And when we do all these things, then certainly we can only say we are innovating if we also get into that creativity mode and begin to come up with new ideas or novel ideas, such that at the end of the day, we'll be able to acclaim and saying, wow, we are seeing light in darkness, or this light at the end of the tunnel, leading us to upgrade and ultimately significant change in whatever ways that we've been using to conduct our businesses. Now, proceeding with our introduction, let's look at the second objective or key question, which is how to innovate. In other words, what options or what methods are there for us to exploit so that we can innovate? Like I said, this is just a teaser. I won't be getting into detail. There are so many ways that an entrepreneur or a business operator can innovate. I'm just going to look at only two forms of innovating. Starting with the first one, which I have indicated here, drawing on research and even from my own experience as a consultant, is that exploiting new business models leads among all other ways of innovating. This is a major form of innovation. This is because you are not at all inventing something new. This is not a new to the world or out of this world, something that if you go throughout the world, you have never heard about it. So this is the new business model exploitation. You begin with your current business model. I take it that you are in business and already you have a strategy, vision, mission, objectives, values. You have some human resource function there. You have got your production operations there, the way you run your production operation, your marketing, your ICT, your stakeholder management, your governance, your finance and accounting. So when you put all these functions, which you find in any business, the idea is you have integrated them into a business model, which then gives value to your customers. So when we say innovate, exploiting the business model, we are simply saying, evaluate your current business model to identify, okay, to identify gaps that you can exploit to innovate. A classic example is by Netflix, okay? Netflix simply revolutionized the entertainment business, where historically, if you are aware, we would go out there and rent those DVDs maybe for 3 days or for a week and we return, okay? Now, they have revolutionized that, okay? And it has become online and there's even streamlining. So this is a business model that has been there where you are renting so that you can actually view movies and entertainment, but it was not online. Now it's online, and then it is enhanced and continues to enhance customer value. You also come to creation of new markets. In other words, you are developing new sources for revenue. A classic example is Facebook, how they've developed an electronic internet market for social networking, vis-a-vis how we used to phone each other, make some appointments, then meet in the park. And if somebody is distance away from your city, then this can take hours. But with Facebook, this is just at the click of a button. And when you look at all this, it enhances innovation. Now, before I proceed with this slide, let's just go to the next slide. I want to highlight that when we innovate, it is not just a matter of exploiting business models or developing new markets or just coming up with new ideas for the sake of it. In fact, we are answering key questions, or in other words, driving or underpinning any innovation process are several key underlying questions, a litany or a plethora of them. These are some of the underlying questions you need to ask before you innovate. Who are you targeting? In other words, what is the target customers? Because you are innovating to capture or to benefit somebody. So you need to also ask your question, who are your competitors? Because when you innovate, You do not innovate in a marketing environment where it is only you, the player, but there are other players there. So you need to look at what are competitors doing and what are the current competitor innovation strategies or models. You also need to consider the suppliers. In other words, as you are providing goods and services or products and services, is it a make strategy where you are providing and producing all the inputs or raw materials that are required to produce your products or services? Or are you relying on suppliers? If you are relying on suppliers, then there is need for you to also take into consideration the suppliers before you come up with an innovation, so that there is a synergy between that innovation and how your suppliers can actually match and compete. Otherwise, if there is dysfunctionality there, then your innovation will suffer. Then you need to ask yourself the stakeholders. Other questions you need to ask include the issues to do with the human capital, the competence, finance, the know-how itself, and whether this innovation is all about solving a problem, or is it that you are coming up with a new benefit, because the way the market is going to respond will also differ based on whether the market is already undergoing a serious problem. Just imagine we are undergoing COVID-19 as a problem. Imagine if you come up with an innovation that solves that problem. What it means is the uptake is so high because you are solving a current tenacious problem. This is different from you selling an added benefit where the customers or the market needs to really take their time to understudy and see the worth of this new benefit, because they are not really confronting any problem. And then you also need to ask yourself issues to do with feasibility of the prototyping, as well as the speed of testing this prototype and the scalability of this prototype, and also the size of the market that is going to be fed by this new innovation. So all these are the key underlying questions which you ask here as you decide which way for innovation to exploit. These are the key underlying questions that you might ask. And having done that, your innovation should, among other key things, be geared towards enhancing customer value. And when this happens, customers are more than prepared to pay for that innovation. And naturally, this is going to increase sales, leading to good or improved performance for your business. And ultimately, for those that want to grow, because remember, I'm saying for those that want to grow, because growth is not just mandatory. It is a choice for many, many SME owner managers. And for those that want to grow, then this innovation would lead to improved performance, which then would drive opportunities for scaling up your business. And to take it beyond, the micro and meso level, let us take it at the macro level. I've put a diagram here. At the macro level, why is it important that as SMEs we should continue to innovate? Well, it is critically important because as businesses, we play a significant role in the society. If we were to say, let us list the key stakeholders for any given society, then I expect to see things like the general public, okay, and which includes all the households. Then I expect to see business, and I expect to see government. In other words, these three are the key major stakeholders in any given society. Government, which is there to promulgate laws which will regulate society and business. And obviously, government is also there to ensure that business does not come up with exploitative tendencies, which will end up exploiting the general public. And the business is there, obviously, to provide the goods and services that are required by the general public. And the society is also there to provide the labor that is required by business, as well as to provide the politicians and governmental leaders. So you can see that these three, the government, the society, as well as the business, are integral key stakeholders for any given economy. And therefore, we don't just innovate for the sake of our own individual interest at the micro level or meso level for our own industrial performance or business sector, but we innovate even at the macro level, because when we contribute and grow our businesses as SMEs, that is also going to buttress even the national economy. You may want to know that throughout the world, small and medium enterprises are the undoubted engines that drive our economies. And in any given economy, you are looking at an average of not less than 50% of private sector firms being constituted by SMEs, as well as employment being around not less than 55%. A classic example here is the UK, where historically the UK continues to lag in terms of its productivity when we look at its international competitors, such as those in the EU, like Germany. And therefore, it is of crucial significance that SMEs, for example, in the UK, need to up their game when it comes to innovation. And actually, when you go through the literature, it tells that this productivity leg is actually driven by the compromised or by the not so much maximum capacity in terms of productivity being exploited or discharged by the SME. So it is important as a micro, small and medium enterprises that you consider to innovate, not just for your business only or for the business sector, but also for the national economy. Because when the national economy performs, it cascades those benefits also back downstream the value chain, and it also improves your business. Now, continuing, assuming you have answered all these questions which we looked at, now let us look at how you actually go about with this innovation. For example, if I was to ask from the list that we generated, remember I gave you an exercise to list keywords that comes to your mind when you think about innovation. If I was to ask of these words, which one do you think would top the list? I'll bet my 500 pounds or 500 US dollars that the words creativity and ideas will certainly top the rest, because people always think of new ideas and creativity when they talk about innovation. A recent study by Adobe and Forrester suggests that 82% of the business persons that participated in this survey point to the fact that those businesses that are consistently generating new ideas, in other words, they are always diving into the creativity mode, they tend to experience better performance or better results. Wow, this is a fascinating survey, but I just want us to even unpack this survey and look at it even deeper. And that's why I've put the traffic sign here, stop. What am I saying? I'm saying innovation is not or does not just end by being creative and generating new ideas day in, day out, week in, week out. It is not that. This is not the bigger picture. It's actually part or a smaller part of the story. There's also a commentary which I can direct to. You can just go to this commentary by MMU Business School. It says here, why your good ideas alone won't help you to innovate. And I do agree 100% with this commentary. In other words, Innovation goes beyond just being creative and coming up with ideas. It requires a comprehensive, integrated innovation cycle where the SME owner manager needs to comprehensively understand each phase of this innovation cycle. Therefore, there's no harm in anyone claiming to see light in the end of the tunnel, okay? But what we are talking about is that we need these new ideas to be transformed into plans, innovation plans, and obviously action being taken. And this leads me to the innovation cycle, the innovation cycle. You can see here, this is not the only model. There are so many models there, but this is something that I've just put up, drawing on research and other literature cited at the end of this PowerPoint slide. So from experience, even in my consulting with SMEs, they tell me that to innovate, there is need to always challenge the status quo. In other words, you cannot innovate if you don't challenge the status quo. Once you challenge the status quo, this leads you to then begin to create new ideas. And once you've done that, it takes you to the next phase of formulating an innovation strategy, which you should and must resource adequately. For example, in terms of the know-how, the finance, the human resources, and other key issues such as the accounting, governance, and sustainability. And it is not enough to just innovate. You must also implement this innovation strategy and do so resolutely. And as you implement it, you need to effectively monitor and evaluate against agreed performance variable indicators. And you must not sit on your laurel once you identify progress, because the moment you stop innovating, actually it is the same moment that you begin to lose grip of your strategic market share or dominance. This is because, remember, you are not alone in the marketing environment. And our marketing environment is sophisticated, complex, and what is permanent is only change. Therefore, innovation and challenging the status quo is continuous. So don't sit on your laurel and say, well, I have innovated. Now, continuing, in order to achieve this innovation much more effectively, you need to get into the appropriate atmosphere for creativity. I've just put here 4 pictographs. The above two are for 2 gentlemen whom you can actually see that we would agree they are not in the best body posture that suggests somebody who is being creative. In fact, the story that comes from this picture, remember, a picture tells more than 1,000, stories. So this picture that tells us that these guys tend to be stressed. So avoid stress, avoid depression, avoid environments that are not promotive for you to be creative. When we compare these two with the bottom pictographs, you can see here is a happy environment of these gentlemen and 2 ladies at work. And here is another happy environment of this lady seated there by some ICT, I think, cables. And you can see that she's pondering on some networking, maybe task, and she's in a mood to actually innovate. So avoid depression if you are to delve into a better creative mode. And this is where we come in as Sahwira SME Hub. We have over a decade of experience drawing on industry and academic disciplines, that is practice and research-based knowledge to effect innovation. And hundreds of SMEs have been empowered through our different business support and advisory services. And myself as a consultant, I have over 30 years of professional work experience spanning banking, management consultants, and university education. I've worked with numerous SMEs who have benefited through our wide range of business advisory support, including training, coaching, mentorship, new business startup programs, learning, and organizational development. And what I've come to understand is that those SMEs that know when and how to seek advice tend to increase their chances for success. So I want to encourage you to consider getting your business advice and support from ourselves as Sahwira SME Hub. And also, I want to take you back to that innovation cycle. Each cycle actually presents you with a golden opportunity to come to us as Sahwira SME Hub so that we can provide you with relevant business advisory services. This is the cycle I'm talking about. Let's start with the point where you need to challenge the status quo. I've written here in gold words, you can get advice. Indeed, you can get advice from us. Why? It's one thing to challenge the status quo by yourself, but it's another thing to involve us as an independent consultant to challenge the status quo. There is always a blind spot when any individual seeks to evaluate themselves, because we call these self-appraisals or self-reporting. Imagine if we ask you, tell us about yourself. To what extent are you prepared to tell us even those negative things? We tend to always pick the good things, and even in other instances, to actually sugarcoat it. So here is an opportunity to invite us to come to your business to help you challenge the status quo. We can undertake a survey, a corporate business, a surgical audit, where we just evaluate to see whether your business is performing very well. For example, you have a strategy. Do you have it? Do you have a vision? Do you have a mission? Do you have objectives? Do you have values? And then we look at the tactics and how all these are integrated so that we can come up with, if it was a person who has gone to see a doctor, this is just like your general practitioner medical health check. So we can do this for you, to do this business health check, and then this will lead us to help you challenge the status quo. And then creating ideas. Again, doing it on your own cannot be compared with striving to create new ideas with outsiders like ourselves as independent consultants. Similarly, all these phases are phases which provide you with a golden opportunity where I can come in there as an independent consultant and assist you to come up with an effective and robust innovation strategy. And as you can see from these brown, blue, as well as green arrows, this is a multifaceted innovation phase, hence interconnected, and everything is connected to improve the competitiveness for your business and, of course, in the long term. Therefore, congratulations for going through this introductory lecture, and I look forward to welcoming you on board as one of the many SMEs that we are providing business advisory support services. Thank you very much for your time, and I want to wish you success in your business. And to book for business advice, you simply go to sahwirafinancial.com/product/business advice pep talk. You can see there, if you click that link, and then you can just book, so that we have a one-on-one chat where you tell us the business story for your business. And from there, we'll then pick the issues that needs redress. And for general inquiries, you can click the link below there. Thank you very much. I trust that this introductory slide on innovation has really opened some new leads. And here are some of the references. And I look forward once again to joining you. My name is Dr. Charlie, and this is Sahwira SME eHub, which is a business unit for Sahwira Financial Services. I wish you the best in your endeavors. Thank you.